Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this fifth event of Nordic Battle of Treasury, a recurrent event hosted by PwC Denmark. My name is Andreas Willing, and I will be your moderator for today. I work as a Treasury specialist in PwC Consulting, where we help clients optimize their Treasury processes, which also includes system implementations. So by my side today, I have Bo, who very shortly will introduce himself and also the topic. But first of all, let's look into what is the concept actually, and also some practical information. So the concept of Nordic Battle of Treasury is really to create a platform that enables you to clearly understand the technological opportunities that can solve your business challenges. So today, the topic is advanced add-ons for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. And that is exactly the reason that I brought in Bo, because he's a subject matter expert on that area. But before Bo will introduce the topic, let's just look at the practical informations for today. We have selected 4 different vendors, and they each have 10 minutes to present, showcase their solution, and then we have to answer questions afterwards. As I'm the moderator today, I will politely interrupt if anyone passes the 10 minutes and also passes the 5 minutes to ensure that all the vendors have the same amount of time to showcase the solution. You, the audience, you can ask questions using the taskbar on the bottom of your page, which will be anonymous. These questions will be anonymous, and Bo and I will pick up the questions. We will try to prioritize them based on the popularity, and then for the questions that will not be answered during this webinar, we will reach out to you afterwards. Lastly, also worth mentioning is that the presentation that will be shared following the webinar. So please, Bo, could you please introduce yourself and the topic?
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. My name is Bo Ulrik. I'm a specialist within ERP at PwC, working with a special focus on Microsoft's ERP systems. Today's topic around why add-ons for Microsoft Dynamics. The question is, why is add-ons needed for Microsoft Dynamics 365? Well, they are needed whenever the solution is not meeting the customer's needs. That might be in a support for a specific industry, or it might be a special functionality. It might be ease of use, or as we are going to see today, that the areas where Microsoft is not supporting a specific bank or bank format, or have the advanced reconciliation functions that the customer requires. Making an integration to a bank isn't an easy task. Some of the development houses we have talked to indicates that it takes 6 months to develop an integration with payment formats and bank statements. If the bank changes its formats, the developer has to maintain its code. And if the customer changes banks, well, it all starts over again. So therefore, we see that a lot of independent software vendors have developed specific solutions in this area. Microsoft knows that there's areas where customers' requirements aren't met by the solution out of the box. It could be industry-specific solutions, as said before, or it can be a solution which are there's a commonly demand for. To help the customers find the right solutions and to help the independent software vendors to sell the solution, Microsoft has created an app source, a marketplace for extensions to Microsoft products. App Source is a big marketplace, which is revealed if you try to search for extensions to Dynamics 365 and banking. In that case, you will get not less than 418 results. Some supporting one bank, others supporting maybe banks in one country. But we have tried to find 4 solutions which are a bit wider in the support and that we find interesting with this area. Next slide. All the solutions we are going to see today are found in app stores. But there's difference in how big the integration, the extension is, how deep it goes into D365, and how they're integrating to the banks. Difference could be on the process where they handled, what are handled in D365 and what is handled outside D365. And whether the standard functions are used or the vendor has created an extension with new and improved functionality that replaces functionality in D365 standard. We have invited 4 vendors to present the solution that supports the accounts payable and accounts receivable treasury process within Dynamics 365. We're going to see Caribou and Cirela, SK Global, and AMC Banking. Some of the solutions are born out of a treasury management system. Others are born out of a tradition to develop solutions for a specific ERP system. I guess we will hear more about the features and the difference from today's guest. So let's have a look and start rolling some of the presentation in this.
Yeah, good idea, Bo. Let's kick off, and we're going to start with Caribou. So Caribou has a portfolio of products targeted towards the treasury management space. Among those, cash management, payments, financial accounting, hedge accounting, and you name it. So what I think is really interesting about having Caribou today is to look into how they actually handle the integration with the Microsoft ERP. So the first person on the stage is Dominique from Caribou. Dominique, please take it away.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. As PwC has said, I'm Dominique Moyler, the Northern Europe Pre-Sales Manager here at Caribou. And I'll be presenting Caribou's initiatives around advanced add-ons for the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance. So to start, let me introduce the Caribou Payments Network and how we're helping blossoming companies using Microsoft Dynamics 365 who are running into a needing to be solved obstacle. So payments should be easy, right? But they're not. And why is this? In one word, it's complexity. So most companies have multiple payment systems connecting to multiple banks across multiple countries and currencies, not to mention multiple people initiating and approving payments with different authorities. All this adds up to a significant effort and cost. So in fact, adding a new bank or payment format to your existing D365 setup can incur a 6-figure expense and 6-month time frame. What is worse, all this complexity creates an environment ripe for errors, fraud, and cybercrime. However, there is an easy solution. Enter Caribou Payments for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance. Caribou provides standardized workflows and controls, format transformation, bank connectivity, as well as fraud detection for all payments from a single platform. So let's see how it works. Starting first with payment controls, Caribou standardizes these controls so that only authorized payments are being executed. Payment policies, approval procedures, and limits are digitized and automated so you can easily enforce your payment policy. This also improves resiliency against fraud and cybercrime. Next, let's move on to format transformation. Caribou's pre-built inventory supports tens of thousands of format variations, 245,000 to be exact. Worldwide, it relieves D365 IT departments from supporting costly payment projects by combining automated format transformation and bank connectivity. Caribou relieves CIOs with their single biggest pain point in D365 payment projects with built-in connectivity, giving you a huge advantage. Caribou connects D365 and other internal payment systems using a pre-built inventory of protocols, including APIs, other direct connections to in-country banking networks, Swift AL2, or even a full Swift service bureau connecting to thousands of banks worldwide across all continents. Finally, Caribou runs compliance and fraud checks using sanction screening and real-time fraud detection. The savings add up quickly through productivity gains, payment efficiencies, and fraud reduction, creating new value, and the complexity is gone. So now payments actually can be easy. So Caribou has co-designed a standardized API connection with the help of Microsoft Research and Development. In the first instance, this connectivity is focusing on solving for the payments and bank connectivity complexities incurred within a D365 project, and will progress through adding additional integration points across cash and liquidity management, GL reconciliation, and risk management. This will deliver a more cohesive relationship between the finance department using D365 and the Treasury Department utilizing more core Caribou TMS functionality. This integration is available for download today through the Microsoft App Source. So if we drill down further into the details, you'll get an idea for the product strategy of these integration workflows. So as these appear before you, they will give you details around the workflow orchestration, the target market, as well as the inbound and outbound execution details and requirements. So you can see here how we're covering all the way through from the payments to the cash management, GL reconciliation, all the way into the risk from a financial transaction basis, as well as a hedging for balance sheet and cash flow. So now let's look in a little bit more detail on the technical architecture between D365 and Caribou. So Caribou has been very careful to make the user experience as simple as possible for the D365 finance users by utilizing the native D365 processes. So if we focus on the payments and payment status workflow, you'll see that this process is triggered by the selection of the Caribou format within the D365 payment journal process. The Caribou extension downloaded performs the initial mapping to the unified Caribou payment factory format and appends other required attributes. So customers can also modify and extend the solution as required. Caribou utilizes the Microsoft recommended integration methods for extending the common data model within D365. And then the Data Hub retrieves and posts data to D365 using the OData API architecture. So workflow orchestration then transmits payment orders to the Caribou application and payment statuses back to Dynamics. Again, taking this down a level to the workflow orchestration details, D365 payment processing begins in payment journals with the selection of the Caribou method of payment. When the payment requests are generated, a Caribou extension creates records in a custom intermediary table, performing mapping to the Caribou payment factory format. On a scheduled basis, the Data Hub retrieves the payments with an API call to Dynamics, updating the payment status as received. The Data Hub then performs technical formatting to meet the Caribou requirements down to the file format, the naming convention, and segment requests such as vendor, Interco, or customer payments. The Data Hub forwards the data to Caribou for payment processing per standard configurations and processing included in our data exchange. The Caribou D365 integration then returns the final status to D365. Intermediary statuses are available within the Caribou application. So payment status export is initiated based on customer configuration to export all executed and rejected transactions. Export files are sent to the Data Hub to perform transformation and data routing, and the Data Hub transmits payments statuses to D365 using the API OData interface. The Caribou extension posts the status back to D365's payment journal, and additional details can also be viewed from D365, such as the Caribou transaction number. So now let's run through a view of the screens in D365 when the Caribou add-on has been installed. So like I said, existing technology has been built to extract a Caribou data hub for the immediate transformation to the bank. So you can see here that you would generate your payment journals in the same way. And through the Caribou extension that you've got, this will activate the ability to create these in the Caribou payment factory format. You would then go about processing your payments in the same way with the value date, etc. And then Caribou will acknowledge that these have been sent and that they've been received. So real-time status updates show for the end users in D365 and showing that the file has been processed and that it's made it all the way through the channel successfully, all the way to your bank, for example, Citibank in this instance. And you will receive a notification that that has been received and processed by your bank. So finally, to wrap up, and you can also see the sent status, and you can drill down into the details from Caribou, such as the identification number and also dates and timestamps. And finally, this will update your vendor payment within D365 to being in an approved state. So why Caribou's Dynamic 365 integration add-on? So to wrap up this presentation, a bit of the benefits to this. So the combination of Microsoft and Caribou unlocks unrivaled power to meet today's biggest challenges for you CFOs and treasurers. And this challenge is enterprise liquidity management. So the addition of Caribou's payments, treasury, and risk management capability complement those resources provided by Microsoft and unleash the promised benefits of your ERP investment and project. These resources, coupled with the flexibility and immediacy of a cloud-based platform technology, deliver automation to reduce the costs and remove error-prone manual interventions, all while increasing security to combat fraud and your cybersecurity concerns. The integration and compatibility of the software from these two industry leaders enables you to act with confidence and execute better informed decisions faster. It delivers better outcomes for you, your staff, your customers, and your shareholders, and dramatically improves your competitive advantage. By using Caribou's active liquidity platform with its out-of-the-box connectivity and proven analytics, you can see, move, protect, and optimize cash to maximum benefit and turn liquidity from a hindrance to becoming a new advantage, allowing your finance department to build confidence and become a strategic partner to your business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dominique. That was very accurate. 10 minutes have passed, so that's really impressive. Time management. Bo, I guess we've received tons of questions, or at least you probably have tons of questions for Dominique for the next 5 minutes.
We got a few, yeah.
Yeah.
And my first question we got here is actually, what is the typical implementation time of your solution?
So when it comes to the actual implementation of the add-on, that is very quick. So that's days, hours, days. Obviously, the complexity to this is the whole process of selecting the correct format, analyzing your banking landscape and the types of payments that you're doing across the world in the different locations. So that can be sort of weeks to months, but by far, not the same as requiring 6 months to develop a new format for a Dynamics consultant.
And then regarding your big base of formats already, if a customer comes in with a new bank or a new format, what should the customer then expect of implementation time there? And first of all, and second of all, what is the cost for the customer if you don't have a certain bank or format?
So that's a really good question. So by having a cloud SaaS platform that is maintained on behalf of all our clients, from a cost perspective, there is no cost to the client. So we develop and maintain all of those formats for the greater good of our 2,500 clients that use them. From the perspective of a new format, so you can imagine that with 45,000, there's not that often that a new format is required, but we have a team of 15 plus people that are based at Caribou, and that's their sole purpose in life is to analyze and build formats. And obviously they can do it relatively quickly compared to a Dynamics person, because that's what they do as a living. And we have good relationships with many of the banks. So it would be sort of weeks to maybe a couple of months to develop a new format and make it available for everyone.
Okay. Then I would like to hear a bit about how you actually are controlling the user access, the normal segregation of duty, what is handling within D365, what is handled in another way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a number of different approaches to this. It depends essentially on the client. So within Caribou, we have sort of full segregation of duty. We can impose authorization limits, approval workflows, all of those things. But to a certain extent, it depends on the client, because depending on what your process is within Microsoft Dynamics, we have clients who just literally want to use Caribou as the conduit to the bank. Because they have the full procure-to-pay process within Microsoft. And for them, payments are approved once accounts payable has initiated a payment run and it's been approved correctly. We have other clients who are happy with that whole procure-to process, but want to do fraud detection within Caribou and want to impose more from a treasury perspective, an approval on the payments going out to the bank. That it's the responsibility of Treasury in the end to make sure that accounts are correctly funded and for the payments to be released. So it can be operated in two ways, either as a black box or either as an additional layer of security on an existing procure-to-pay process.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we have time for just one more question, and depending on the length of the answer, of course.
We got one more question regarding how you're selling your modules and how you're pricing them. Is it based on the number of modules, number of users, transaction-based, or how are you actually selling these solutions?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix and match there. So Caribou is on a modular basis. Obviously, if you're just looking for sort of payment integration, then it would be the payment factory. So it's on a per module, per user, per connection basis, with a very small charge for transaction volumes, more for scalability of our data centers. So it takes into account lots of different factors.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Bo, and thank you, Dominique. We will leave you for now to continue with the next presenter, who will be Serella. So Serella is also a treasury management system solution similar to Caribou, can be compared with Caribou. But historically, there's been a focus from Serella's side on SAP integrations. So I'm really curious to know more about how they handle Microsoft integrations. And to explain that and go into details about that, please welcome Christian from Serala.
Hi there. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Awesome. So let me start right away with the very first slide. I hope everyone can see that now. Great. So my name is Christian. I'm the Director of Solution Success for AP here at Serala. For those who've maybe not met Serala, maybe one or two words on Serala. We are a provider that's covering different processes in finance, so to speak. One of them is the procure-to-pay process, but we also take care about the order-to-cash process. We address data and document archiving needs, care about cash visibility, for example, or treasury and so on. And this is something we've been doing for quite a while, for more than 30 plus years. But if you guys want to know more on that, please check out our website, and then you will know a lot more, or just reach out to me. Now, going to the next slide. On the objective, why or what is the need for a solution like this? And the way we see it, or the way I see it, basically is from the entire invoice to pay process. So typically, a payment starts in the very beginning with, for example, an invoice, a vendor invoice that's entering your organization. And what you want to achieve in regards to that invoice, for example, is an automatic posting of that invoice, whether it's PO related or it's non-PO related, and we take care about that. Further, we also want to make sure that we take care of any duplicates coming in. Maybe you have a vendor sending you an invoice by email, and at the same time also send you the same invoice via regular mail, for example. We want to make sure that we find and identify those duplicates as early as possible before it is handed over to payments. Of course, on the payment side, we also have the ability to detect any fraudulent invoices, as we heard before. But we also want to make sure that at a very early time in the process, we see those duplicates. We do a lot of automation, and this is just one of the many examples that we do. For example, we can propose an AI-based auto coding based on our machine learning capabilities that will propose the right coding information based on the history that the organization has been using. So the ideal goal, what we want to achieve, is more visibility, not only on the AP side, but also, of course, on the payment side. And we want to give you a very detailed reporting capability, so you know exactly with a click of the button where what the status of a payment is, but also what the status of an invoice is at the same time. And we do so by standardizing a lot of things, standardizing and streamlining processes, for example, but also the way we handle the payments as one. So moving to the next slide, how does it work? And when I said we look at it holistically. Now, like I mentioned before, very often a payment starts with an invoice coming in. And of course, you have many different input channels. Invoices are sent in via email. Invoices are sent in maybe as an XML file. Maybe invoices are sent through vendor portal and so on, just like one that we are offering. So what we would do is we would automatically data capture the content. So take the information from that invoice, automatically detect who the vendor is, automatically detect all the different amounts and so on, and then we make sure that we handle those. And in your organization, you have, I'm sure you have different business rules where you would decide when an invoice should get auto-posted in the background or when not. For example, if you have a PO-based invoice where you have a goods receipt, where you have a purchase order, and where you have the invoice, and if all this is all good, everything is matching, then this invoice can get routed in the background and get posted automatically directly to Dynamics 365. But in case there is a mismatch, you want to make sure that we take care of handling and routing that invoice to the right person, so the dispute can get resolved very quickly in a very efficient way. So this is where we highly leverage workflows. Again, this is just the AP side of the things. At any time, you can access the invoices. So with the click of the button, you know exactly what the status of an invoice is. From an invoice perspective, but also from a payment perspective. So we offer you an invoice overview where you can exactly see what is the status of the invoice, and you can directly drill down also to the payment that is related, for example, to that invoice. And this detailed reporting, we also enrich with our analytics tool that will allow you to analyze and compare how are you doing or how have you improved your processes. What is your processing time? How long does it take you from the arrival of the invoice until the payment, end to end, as I was saying earlier ago. So these are different things that we're doing. Now, looking at the payment side of the things, we of course have different integration, just like we were hearing earlier ago from Dominique in a very similar fashion. We take care of the different payments coming from maybe different ERP systems. Maybe Dynamics 365 is only one of those many in your organization that you're using. So we can also make sure that we handle other ERP systems. Our solution is also a SaaS solution, so a cloud-based solution that has the capability to connect to different ERP systems, no matter whether these are on-prem ERP systems or also cloud-based ERP systems. So again, different possibilities that we have. We take care of all the information, whether it's sent to us or provided to us via SFTP or via REST API. We take care of this and we process it further. Again, our aim is always to provide you with more visibility on everything, the invoice side, but also the payment side. So we take care of the payment processing. We take care of the different formats, the different connectivities we were just hearing earlier ago, whether it's EBIX or Swift and so on, whether the communication takes place via an API or via FTP and so on, or via maybe any other web service that is out there. We also have fraud capabilities that will allow you to warn you, that will raise a hand and warn you and basically notify you of any suspicious payment before the payment is executed, basically. So you get involved before that and you get notified before that. We offer you flexible workflow functionality to make sure that you have your approval processes in place. We can also make sure that not the same person is approving that payment that maybe was involved in the AP process as well, which is also very important. So again, segregation of duties, I guess, is one of the terms or one of the things we really want to make sure. Plus, also when we have an invoice where we've had in the past maybe some suspicion, we can make sure that even at the level of the invoice, the process will stop and warn you before it's being handed over to payments. So there's a lot of things basically that we do, and talking about that in much detail is something that will probably go beyond the 10 minutes that I have here to discuss with you. But what I'd like to do is give you basically an idea what our screen looks like. For example, what we're seeing here is what it looks like for the end user when they receive, for example, an invoice as shown here. And again, they have different possibilities how they can participate in the process. Everybody's getting notified via email, and you just click on the email and you get routed to our web portal from where you can access the invoice, and by the way, also the payments. And from there, you can take further action. You can approve the invoice right away. You can reject an invoice, provide a reason why the invoice is rejected. You can maybe add it in attachment and so on. So there's a lot of possibilities that you have, whether you do this from a desktop or maybe a mobile device. There's a lot of flexibility that we offer to the users. Same on the payment side, by the way. And in addition to that, what we're currently working on, and this is something that will be published soon, is our Teams integration. This is basically a sneak preview on how that looks like. So you don't even have to leave your Teams client in order to approve that invoice. So you get notified via Teams. You can access the information via Teams, and you can basically complete the task via Teams without ever having to leave Teams. This is something very neat in our opinion, and that provides you a lot of accessibility and a high level of acceptance for the end users, which is also very important when speaking of business processes, at least according to my experience. Now, I was mentioning the analytics part, just a sneak preview on what it looks like. So we provide you with very detailed pre-configured dashboards for AP, for payments, and also both together. And with a click of the button, you can tell exactly how long does your process take. What is the processing time? What is the time until the payment is done? How long does the payment take? How many payments were maybe rejected and so on. So you have a very detailed reporting dashboard that you can access at any time, provided completely by us. We have this information. And again, you can compare information one year to another, one quarter to another. You can drill down on information and then get the more detailed picture as you like. So this is something very powerful, very helpful in order to identify possible gaps, possible bottlenecks, for example, in order to then take the appropriate action to improve the situation at any time. And this, again, is true for AP and payments. Last but not least, maybe just a few takeaways for you. As you just heard, there's a lot we can do. We can do embedded in different meanings. For example, we've heard that we are also very knowledgeable in the SAP area, but not only. We also have extensive knowledge in the dynamic space. So we can offer embedded solutions, we can offer cloud solutions, but we can also offer hybrid solutions. Sometimes we have customers where they're like, well, I like to take the benefits.
Christian,
yes.
Sorry, but now I need to politely interrupt you. I hope that was polite enough.
That was very polite.
The 10 minutes have passed, and we need to move on to have enough time for the other vendors. But I know that you can speak for many minutes. But we need to move on with the questions. And Bo,
sure.
You have a few.
I got a few questions. And the first one is, we saw on your sketch before that you can integrate to other ERP systems and on-premise. My question is actually, do you today have support for earlier versions of the Dynamics 365 FO, or what it was called at that time, AX 2012?
Yeah. Yes, we can. We can integrate into that as well. But this is generally true when we work with on-premise solution. We also have to talk about connectivity. How do we connect an on-premise solution, which is not always accessible via the internet? It kind of depends on the infrastructure of the customer. So we would have to consider a middleware that maybe a customer is already having today, or we can provide one to ensure that we can connect our cloud services basically to the on-prem world. But yes, that's possible. We can do that.
Oh, fine. And another question, and it was just me trying to follow your accounts payable flow there. Are you having a 2- and 3-way match functionality
Yes.
built into your solution?
Yes, totally. That's basically what I was explaining. I was not calling it by the name, but when I was explaining, and I knew you were watching carefully, or listening carefully. I was explaining about the goods receipt. I was talking about the purchase order in the invoice, and we match all three. And when there's a match and there's no deviation, or it's within the set tolerances, then the invoice can get processed automatically, fully automatically. But whenever there is a mismatch, maybe the amount is higher on the invoice than it is in the purchase order, we can make sure that we route this invoice to the right person, for example, to purchasing, to take care of that price difference.
Fine. We need to have the same question as I had to the former presenter as well, because what I think is very interesting is how long time a typical project takes from you from start to end.
Yeah, of course, it kind of depends what type of process we're looking in, whether we look at in the entire invoice to pay process, or maybe just the payment part, or maybe just the invoice part. But generally, I would say technically to set it all up doesn't take that long in order to process this, because a lot of that we offer is standardized, connectivity is standardized, formats are standardized. So it doesn't really take that much time to technically set it all up. But then the devil is in the detail, as Dominique was pointing out earlier ago. And the customer has to test it. There's a few things that has to be done. I would say in average, it probably takes something between 3 to maybe 5 months, depending on the customer. And also on the scope, whether it's just one country or one subsidiary or one legal entity, or whether it's, I don't know, 20 legal entities we have to onboard.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I saw at your last slide that you mentioned that you have plus 100 active customers on your invoice to pay globally. Is that all
Yes.
on Dynamics 365?
No, it's a blend, to be honest. And that the figure, I also should say, is more AP related. Overall, we have a lot more customers. But that's a blend of different customers coming from different angles, basically, different ERP system. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christian. It was very interesting to listen in and also get your answers on both questions. So let's move on to the next vendor. And our third vendor today to present has a very strong focus on banking and treasury automation, exactly for Microsoft Dynamics 365. So please welcome Jonas from ESCO Global.
Yep, thank you very much. Can I get a quick confirmation that you can hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that introduction. Yep, so my name is Jonas Andersen. I'm the sales director of SKG, covering the EMEA region. Our EMEA headquarters is based out of Copenhagen in Denmark, and we have our global headquarters based out of Houston, Texas. So basically, I'll be introducing you to SKG and our banking and treasury automation suite for Microsoft Dynamics D365 Finance and Operations, and I'll just say D365 from here on. And I'll specifically be pointing out 4 main reasons for why I believe you should pick the SKG solutions over our competitors today, specifically for your banking and cash management and payment processes. But before getting to those 4 points, I'll just give you just a brief overview of SKG just as a company and what it is we do. So first of all, SK Global Software is a certified Microsoft Dynamics 365 ISV, and I'll come back to this point a little bit later about being certified and a fully embedded solution. But essentially, we were founded in 1995, and we've been working as a Microsoft independent software vendor and ISV since then. And we focus obviously on banking, payments, banking integrations, and our work since 1995 has essentially evolved into what's today a quite extensive solution built specifically for D365. So as a company, we focus entirely on D365 F&O, which I believe is one of our competitive advantages as well. We're also a Microsoft inner circle partner, which is a title that's given to only the top 1% performing Microsoft partners in the Microsoft ecosystem. That's of course something we're very proud of, and that's also one of the reasons why we're being pointed to within the Microsoft Preferred Global ISV program by, for instance, Microsoft Consulting Services themselves for banking needs. So today we support more than 500 customers specifically on the newest version of D365, which was launched in 2017. So we're of course quite proud of the number of customers we've added to the solution. We may be one of the solutions that are actually the most deployed on the newest version of D365. So we've been told, but it's unofficial. But at least at the moment, we're adding somewhere between 100 to 150 D365 customers a year at the moment. So our flagship solution is obviously our banking and treasury automation suite, which covers banking, cash management, and treasury automation. In total, we have 17 modules today, so that's obviously quite a bit. And I'll get into the details of what exactly it is we offer across those 17 modules. But of course, one of the absolute core elements of what we provide, the same as the other vendors, is of course facilitating automated, secure communication between D365 and then essentially whichever bank you're working with as your banking partners across your organization. So let's get into why you should choose working with SKG specifically. And as I said, there's 4 main reasons, and I'll get into the details of each one of them more specifically. Number 1, the fact that we're Microsoft certified Dynamics ISV. 2, we believe you should leverage the power of your D365 ERP system and the data that's already there. Then the obvious one, we of course help you enhance your banking and payments processes. And lastly, you'll be able to benefit from what we call a unified user experience by using the SKG solution. So let's just dive into these individual points just one at a time here. There are some clear advantages from being a certified Microsoft ISV and fully embedded solution. Technically, we're of course an approved ISV add-on, meaning that from an installation perspective, it's quite easy to install the SKG solution. From a process perspective, a business process perspective, we of course extend upon standard D365 processes wherever that makes sense, instead of reinventing the processes in a separate system. So we'll get into that, but we're obviously reusing as much of the standard functionality and only extending upon what makes sense. We are also in complete sync with Microsoft updates and their release cycles, meaning that when they launch an update, we're of course in lockstep mode with Microsoft. And in fact, the SKG solution is already forward compatible with future D365 releases. But in any case, we of course test that every single time that Microsoft provides an update as well. So all of this technical vetting, if you will, of course, helps you as a customer, getting a much simpler installation and deployment process. Will essentially fit right into your existing D365 rollout plan, or we can of course be an add-on that's being added to your D365 solution afterwards as well. But essentially, from a configuration perspective, everything will stay within your D365 project, so to say. And also technically, and your IT people and implementation folks will like this, and probably also finance people, because it lowers the cost and the risk. There's no third-party integrations needed with the SKG solution. There's no third-party data transmission. Everything essentially stays within your existing ERP and Azure platform. And of course, nothing is hosted outside of your Azure platform either. And lastly, I would say, from a subscription or a licensing perspective, of course, we follow the general, you could say, Microsoft licensing structure as well. So everything is quite smooth from that end as well. If we focus in on leveraging the power of your ERP system, I'll say this slide will actually cover two of the points, not just how you leverage the power of your ERP system, but also the benefits of the SKG solution in itself. But let's start with the first point. So when we say that you can leverage the power of your existing D365 system, what this illustrates is, of course, that you have your standard D365 system. That's, of course, built on top of or sits within your Azure environment. You, of course, will leverage all the nice benefits that you get from the full Microsoft stack, being able to use Power Apps, Power BI, using Microsoft App Source, where we come into the picture, of course. And you'll be able to, and that's probably the most important piece here, be able to nicely extract data to Excel, manipulate data, and quickly get it back into the system again, all encompassed, you could say, within one single platform. So if we just add a little bit to this, you'll notice that there's a block here that says, or module that says Treasury Automation. That would be the SKG solution. So we will essentially sit as an extra solution inside of your D365 system. And here you basically see all the 17 modules that we cover all in all. And I won't go through all of them, but of course the traditional disciplines as handling AP or vendor payments, going through to your banks, to handling very advanced bank statement reconciliation processes, to more complex functionalities such as in-house banking, payment factory setups, and we even have credit card processing functionalities. So all of this is completely, all of this functionality is functionality that will be embedded into your D365 user interface. So as I said earlier, obviously a core element of what we provide, as like the other vendors, is of course providing connectivity between D365 and as your ERP system and your banking partners. The key here is that the SKG communication sits within, you could say, your Azure and D365 system as well. And today we offer two ways of communicating with your external banks, our File Hub and our Bank Fabric offering. File Hub is more of a local server type setup, where Bank Fabric offers an Azure-based, hosted, secure, web-based communication option as well. But both options essentially offer host-to-host type connectivity via your typical ways of communicating with banks, FTP, SFTP, web service-based, EBIX, and so forth. And we, of course, cover all the usual suspects when it comes to the payment types that you need to be able to handle with all of your banks, ISO 222 formats and so forth. And the same on the bank statement side, we, of course, also cover all the usual suspects there, CMT 053s, BAI2s, MT 940s, and so on. And of course, the banks that are on this slide are, of course, just examples. So we have also built out our SKG bank format library that can be used out of the box. And of course, in the case when we run into a bank that's not currently covered, or a bank in a specific country, that, of course, is part of the SKG licensing. We don't charge anything for development of or providing new bank formats either. So just to add the last piece here, just to make that clear also, when it comes to credit card processing, we do have a separate communication mechanism here called PayFabric, which essentially also provides API connectivity to payment gateways, but that's obviously some different entities than banks. So there we offer wallet functionality and embedded credit card payment options for D365, as I said, with these different payment gateways that allows you to take credit card and debit card payments and so forth. So that essentially covers how you can leverage the power of D365 as a standard solution with SKG added to it. And the reasons for adding SKG, obviously, is that you get all of this functionality within your existing D365 solution. Then the last point is essentially benefiting from having a unified user experience. And again, with the SKG solution being completely embedded into D365, everything sits right in there. You can work across all legal entities, all bank accounts in your existing setup. You don't need to leave D365 to transact with your banks, and you can drill into all the data that's already available in there. So I think I'll cut it short here. It looks like there are some pending questions.
Thank you very much, Jonas, and thank you also for staying within the 10 minutes. Sure. Very much appreciated. Bo, are there any questions?
Well, first of all, I actually got one on your last slide here, because when you're saying on mentioning last line that export and manipulation of data in Excel, when it comes to payment transactions, I get a bit scared here. So I would have asked in another way, what do you do to make sure that this is not possible?
Yeah. No, of course, you cannot manipulate the actual approval process of payments going to your banks. That's, of course, a process that will live in D365. You can, of course, leverage approval workflows in D365, and regular users will not have access to, you say, the data that's contained within a payment file, or changing the file structure in any way. So that's, of course, sealed off and completely, say, locked off from regular users. So those cannot be exported to Excel or be played within in an XML type format.
Okay. Well, when we are talking about this part of the security, I'm a bit curious. Have you created any special roles to handle the segregation of on your users, or any special roles to handle your module?
Yeah, I mean, we basically build on top of the security roles that are already in D365. So you can, of course, define further roles in there, and we can, of course, help set up those roles as well. So the segregation of duties essentially will follow, you could say, the structure that you set up in D365. We don't build, you could say, our own specific roles per se, but you can extend upon the existing ones.
You mentioned that you are a preferred solution within AppSource. What does it actually mean? What does it take to be one of the preferred solutions? Yeah,
it's more or less today an unofficial program, if you will, but it does require you to be able to, together with Microsoft Consulting Services, be able to engage with the largest customers out there that need to be able to deploy fast and on a global scale. So it's not enough to be able to handle payment types in only a certain region or so forth. As we know, a lot of the big global SIs Avanade, Accenture, and so on. Obviously, as a preferred ISV, you need to be able to be in lockstep mode with those larger partners as well and implement in several different international regions at the same time.
Okay. If we have a customer who wants to use your module and comes up with new banks, what should they expect of development time there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the actual development turnaround time for a brand new bank format is typically 2 to 3 weeks for SKG. Obviously, they, like for the other vendors, there can be some time in getting defined with the bank what's actually required. But from the moment we have the you say that the specifications clearly defined from the bank, 2 to 3 weeks is what it takes for us to get a new bank format in place.
Well, thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jonas. That covers the questions for now. Let's move to our last vendor to present today, who actually see themselves as the world's leading bank integration software. So I'm really interested to hear more about that. Please welcome Neil from the United States for doing the presentation, and which will be followed by Thomas from Copenhagen, who will handle the questions. So Neil, I guess it's good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting us to this Treasury-focused event and taking the time to learn about AMC. My colleague Thomas will obviously be taking the questions, and I'm just going to go through the presentation for you. So AMC Banking was formed in 1993. We maintain offices in Copenhagen, Denmark, Warsaw, Poland, and in Philadelphia, USA. AMC is among the world-leading bank data integration software providers, providing integration services with several different ERP platforms. But lately, we've been focusing on the Microsoft D365 platforms. AMC Banking is also a preferred solution in AppSource, trusted to integrate with both Microsoft D365 Finance and Operations and Business Central. AMC Banking stands out from other software companies in not just the same space, not just because of our added functionalities, but also because of our commitment to customer service, supporting our product from the beginning of the sales process through implementation to end user support. We are always available to provide technical assistance, responding within 24-hour business hours or sooner. So today we are going to have a quick overview of how AMC Banking works with standard D365 Finance and Operations, and what differentiates AMC Banking. What important features and functionalities have we developed that improve processes, efficiencies, saving time, money, and organizational resources. So this image here is just a visual representation of how AMC Banking works. Very simplistic, but we try to focus on centralization, automation, and security. To the left, we have D365 Finance and Operations installed with the AMC Banking module. In the middle, we have the AMC Banking Bank Data Conversion Server. It's dedicated, hosted in Azure, and connected to a number of different banks and treasury management systems. For example, to execute payments, simply the payments are entered into the payment journal, and when they are ready for execution, the payment journal is then sent to the AMC Bank Data Conversion Server in Azure, and from there it is distributed directly to the stomach of the bank or treasury management system for execution. Conversely, this system can also do automatic reconciliation through pulling in an electronic bank statement from the bank, passing that through the AMC Bank Data Conversion Server, and then distributing that data to open entries within Dynamics 365. It's important to note that no files are stored between the ERP system and the bank. So from here, we can also provide a variety of centralization, so different subordinate Locations globally can also utilize the same system, and then automate the entire process through using AI functionality for recognizing and automating a number of payments. And for security, we have a secured encrypted connection to the banks that are also PSD2 compliant, which we will get into a little bit later. So there are a number of pain points that we have reviewed, and just a couple of them to go over. First is obviously developing and maintaining file formats. File format development for outgoing electronic payments and receiving incoming payments, reconciling bank account statements is obviously very labor-intensive and an expensive process in some cases. And then there's also format maintenance, which can be cumbersome and costly, especially if the formats are required to be hard-coded. So AMC Banking has over 600 different bank formats and APIs for financial institutions and treasury management systems around the world. These formats are stored on a separate server, as you saw in the middle, hosted in Azure, accessible to all users of AMC Banking in our bank data conversion server. AMC is responsible for maintaining and updating all the available formats at no cost to the customer. And because it is cloud-based, AMC Banking has the flexibility to make updates and additions with as little interruption to overall service as possible. And new formats can be easily added or updated every month. Another challenge that we've heard from our users is that the manual processing of all these transactions is quite time-consuming. So still entering transactions line by line, manually entering or matching every transaction from invoices or bank statements is time-consuming and redundant. For the solution that we've come up for outgoing payments, AMC can automate and pre-fill payment journals to send multiple outgoing payments all at once, including pre-selecting payment details by bank account, payment type, currency, and calculating transaction fees for cost efficiency. For incoming payments, AMC Banking uses our auto match algorithm when receiving incoming payments and reconciling journal entries using electronic bank statements. This process can save the average accounting department personnel an average of 7 hours of manual entry time per day. And the last challenge that we've chosen to identify, although this is obviously there are many challenges, but the last one we've chosen to address is the inability to establish secure connectivity between D365 and the user's banks. D365 allows for manual handling of files only, often with little security protocols, can be manipulated and changed, and increases instances of fraud. D365 does not allow secure communication via bank-specific API, which can be encrypted and automated. So our solution is that AMC Banking, the bank data conversion server, can allow for both file-based data transmission and host-to-host connectivity via bank-specific API integration. Host-to-host communication with the user's bank allows for automation, customizable approval workflows, completely secure and encrypted data transmission. It also has a deeper integration with D365, which and almost completely eliminates opportunities for fraud. It's also important to note that AMC is the first in the Nordics and the only bank data integration service accredited by the Danish Financial Supervisory Authority as achieving PSD2 compliance. This provides that AMC Banking is officially licensed as a payment institution, governed by the same rules and regulations as other financial institutions and money service businesses. So again, in this representation, we have how AMC Banking works with the treasury solutions and banks, but there are other unique properties of AMC Banking, such as being out of the box. AMC Banking was developed to be out of the box and can potentially be installed and operational within 2 days, depending on the size of the project and the scope, while providing users with the deep bank integration required that they ask for. It also has the capability to be used across ERPs. So AMC Banking can work with any ERP, especially useful for companies merging, acquiring companies that have different technologies, companies upgrading where some divisions and global branches using legacy systems or in the process of transitioning to D365. AMC banking can be used across those operations as well. And we also have invoice integration and automation with our partner DoApp. And DoApp is a specialist in invoice receiving and processing for D365 finance and operations, and combining DoApp and AMC gives users a seamless and optimized accounts payable process. So from here, if there's any questions, I will turn it over to my colleague, Thomas Vestergaard.
Thank you very much, Neil. And you actually managed to not only stay within the 10 minutes, but you also left 40 seconds for more questions. So, Thomas, welcome to the stage. And
thank you very much.
We will have Bo once again asking a few questions to you.
Well,
hi, Bo.
Well, thank you, Neil. The first question we got is actually, what are your plans with the PSD2 certification you received?
Yeah, so receiving the PSD2 certification was a huge thing for us, obviously. A long process, aligning both technology and compliance scenarios. The main focus on basically the reason why to receive the status is both relation to compliance, security matters, obviously is a major thing of that, but also for AMC to enable integration to the PSD2 APIs that will be offered for the bank. This will basically mean for the clients to have a much smoother and much easier onboarding process to the various banks they're using. And moving forward, this will be an integrated and integrated part of the AMC solution.
Okay. And just to get my understanding right here, that actually means that you will be able to retrieve data directly from the different banks in another way, or what's the result of
so? Yeah, actually, so PSD2 is you could say a part of the open banking initiative from the banks. Basically, what that means is that banks will liberate data for the clients. This will be offered via specific APIs from the bank side, and we will be integrating to that. Significantly, what it basically means is that the onboarding process will be significantly faster, and we could easily receive integration to a number of banks. If you compare it to today, where you, as my colleagues have also talked about, that mapping files and doing base-specific integration, this will be a much easier way to receive information from the bank and sending payments to the bank as well.
Okay. Then I would like you to try to elaborate on your work with the TMS systems, your TMS integration.
Yeah, so on the AMC module, what Neil also showed you is that we have our service with support, 600 banks straight out of the box. We are offering bank-specific integration, so we can offer integration to one bank in several different ways, both on a file-based level as well as API-based integration. But basically what we do with integrating a treasury system to our system is that we will consider a treasury system as merely a new bank on our system, right? So you can actually choose directly from the AMC module to channel your payment from the AMC module to the treasury system, and then execute your payment via the treasury system if that's what you want. Basically, what our vision is here is also to narrow the gap between the traditional financial processes and treasury, giving the possibility to accumulate data across financial processes and treasury for clients to be able to do their BI needs across the different disciplines in the company.
Okay. Well, my last question is actually going on the security part here as well, relating to the segregation of duty in this workflow you have. Have you created any special roles to handle your extension in D365?
Yeah, so we have our own role system. So yes, we have, and we also supporting that on many different levels. And actually, not only roles, but also we have enhanced the whole approval side, approval process in our module. So if I can just elaborate a little bit about that. So you can actually tailor your approval process on many different levels. Not only, of course, we support the 4 I's principle in our module, but you can also set restriction to a specific amount on an approval. So one approval is only allowed to approve on a specific amount. You can also restrict approval to a specific account, as well as you can group approvals with specific rights. And also on behind that, we also have a complete workflows that will we can activate for announcing a specific approval on a specific account.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you very much, Neil, and thank you very much, Bo, for the good questions. So actually, that covers the webinar for today. But before you leave, we would of course like to thank all the vendors. I think it's been very interesting to hear how you approach this Microsoft integration and also optimizing payments and cash management flow in different ways, and showcasing your capabilities within your system in only 10 minutes each. I think it's been very impressive to see how you manage that. Of course, also thank you to the audience for sending many good questions. And before we leave today, I would like to, as we usually do on these Nordic Battle of Treasury, ask the audience to bring home with them a few considerations. So first of all, you can ask yourself and your organization if you're efficiently handling payments and reconciliation via Microsoft Finance Operations, via your Microsoft ERP in a good way. So now you've seen how third-party solutions on top of Microsoft ERP can actually improve what is standard in the Microsoft ERP. So you can ask yourself, are we doing it in an efficient way? If you want to dig further into that business case, you can quantify whether you're using automatic reconciliation in an efficient way, and what is the percentage of automatic reconciliation versus the ones that are handled manually. If you're looking at the payment side, you can also double check whether you're in your current setup are actually optimizing, cost optimizing your payment methods. Because as we saw today, some of the vendors actually have capabilities of changing a payment format from going from an expensive payment type to a cheaper payment type. So is that something that you handle? Because there's a lot of savings in that. Lastly, on practicalities, so we will of course share with you the material. If you have any questions regarding ERP implementations, TMS implementations, feel free to reach out to Bo or myself. You have our contact details here, and a small cliffhanger for the next event, which will be commodity risk hedging and taking place next year in March. You can already now put a placeholder in your calendar, and we will of course send out invitations and more information. So I don't have anything more. Do you have any final remarks, Bo?
No, not today.
No. Then thank you very much to everyone, and thank you for participating, and have a lovely day and evening.